You're listening to Myers-Briggs Question Corner with Edythe Richards.
Hello, folks. We're in the midst of another hot, humid summer here in the Washington, D.C. metro, and we're also still in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, so hope you all are staying safe. I've been talking a lot about personality and how this pandemic has affected us differently based on our inherent personality traits. For better or for worse, we all have things we need to work on in ourselves, and we also have strengths that are going to help us pull through during these uncertain times. I'm going to choose to see the glass as half full, though I admit sometimes it's difficult. It's really easy to get stuck in a funk, but one way I've been able to get moving again is as much as I can to focus on the things that bring me joy. I put my energy into those things and put less energy into things that aren't natural strengths for me. I do think if more of us had this mindset, and what I mean by that is that if we can lean into who we are most naturally and comfortably and spend most of our time in that space, we're going to get a lot further, and that will lead to happier, healthier, and more productive lives. Of course, this is easier said than done, and I admit that one of my worries is how the pandemic is going to affect employment. And I can easily get myself distracted and go down so many rabbit holes researching this topic, and really none of the numbers look good. It's very likely that we're headed towards some very hard times. So this had me wondering, what personality traits will be most helpful in these times ahead, and what personality traits will get you hired and promoted? If you've been tuning in for a while now, you'll know that I'm a career counselor and I've been working in this field for 20 years. I've helped thousands of people apply for jobs, and some have been successful while others less so. Ultimately, I truly believe that it's not so much a person's personality that's a factor in whether or not an employer chooses to hire them, but their level of emotional intelligence. And any Myers-Briggs type can use emotional intelligence effectively or not. They're really two different things. There is no Myers-Briggs type who is more or less emotionally intelligent than any other. But we're looking at personality here. Are there some traits that are just more attractive to employers? Well, I'd say, of course, that depends on the employer. Interviewing for jobs is such a subjective process. When you get to that interview stage, it's really all about telling your interviewer what they want to hear in the way they want to hear it. At this stage, you've already demonstrated that you have the technical qualifications. So the interview is really about quote-unquote fit. And that's where things can become tricky because fit or culture fit isn't measured nice and neatly. So what I'm going to cite in this podcast is information from a number of sources, including Career Builder, Society for Human Resource Management, combined with a few lessons I've learned and observed over the years. The first thing I'll mention is the importance of self-management skills, and these are pretty obvious. You need to be dependable, do what you say you're going to do. You need to be on time always, and in many corporate environments, this means you need to be early. Now, Myers-Briggs perceiving types often get a bad reputation for arriving late, turning in assignments late, procrastinating, and such. If you'd like to hear more about this, I invite you to tune in to my podcast, Perceivers and Time Management, and I'll include a link in the listening notes. Other skills cited by employers that are necessary include being honest, being positive, confidence, and being overall self-motivated. The higher you go up the career ladder, the more you're going to be expected to do things without someone else giving you kudos or reminding you about deadlines or holding your hand. And if you fall short in some area, it's ultimately up to you to do what it takes to fix the problem. That's what being a professional is all about. Other employers have cited skills like being decisive, being a go-getter, being flexible, being curious, problem-solving, strategy, and analytical skills, and a willingness to learn. One thing to remember is that every organization is different, and some careers and jobs require more or less of these attributes. And then there's the trait that every employer says they want, but they often mean different things when they cite it. And I'm talking about communication skills. It's a phrase that's so overused and so broad that it's hard to know what it really means. Every job description you read probably has this listed in the essential category. Unless you work in a role where you're completely isolated from the world, you're going to need to be able to communicate. Again, different employers are going to mean different things by excellent communication skills. They could mean your ability to relate to others, work on a team, persuade or sell or negotiate, all depending on the job, of course. But in any job, you're going to need to be able to express yourself both verbally and in writing in a way your audience can hear. And if there's one thing that I recommend anyone improve, it's this ability. Because most of us communicate all the time, we assume that we must be good communicators. The reality is that developing effective professional communication takes time and needs a lot of practice. And what worked in one situation isn't necessarily going to work in another. So I'm going to break down this somewhat nebulous term of communication skills into 4 areas. First is the ability and tendency to listen. And I mean actively listen. Pay attention without letting your mind wander. This means taking the time to focus on other people's viewpoints and ideas and asking them thoughtful questions to further understand what they're saying. Now, this doesn't mean just sitting there quietly while someone else speaks. It means truly tuning into them, showing them that you're focusing and interested in what they're saying. Without good listening, teamwork is going to suffer. Good ideas are going to go unnoticed, so innovation will suffer. In short, lack of true active listening can hurt an organization's bottom line. Extroverted types often get a bad rep for their inability to listen well. But the truth is that anyone of any Myers-Briggs type can choose to listen or not. The second area of communication skills I want to mention is nonverbal communication. You may have heard the statistics that over 50% of our communication is actually nonverbal. It's not just your word choice and what you say, but how you say it. It's thus important to pay attention to your tone of voice, your eye contact, your gestures, and your facial expressions. Quote-unquote negative nonverbal skills, such as frowning or crossing your arms, will lead to poor or misinterpreted communication. Similarly, just staring at someone with a lack of expression is plain weird, and it's bound to make your interviewer, or anyone else for that matter, uncomfortable. So if you've been told that you have a flat style, or you're low on the emotional intelligence element called emotional expression, it would be a good idea to start matching what you're feeling inside to what expression or gesture you're portraying outside. Think about which emotion you're demonstrating to the person you're talking to. Though introverted types may be naturally less expressive than extroverted types, anyone can learn to be more expressive or to tone down their expressions when the situation demands it. Third is being respectful and appropriate to the situation. The language you choose in different contexts is crucial. In the professional world, you're going to be in numerous situations where you have to size someone up immediately and choose your words in the moment, and your effectiveness is entirely contingent upon how you adapt yourself to the situation. Different audiences, situations, and environments call for different messages. The easiest way to become good at this is to imitate the style of the person you're talking to. This requires practice and a lot of observation if it's not something that comes naturally to you. But this skill is one that will truly set you apart if you're able to employ it correctly. The last area of communication I'm going to cite is clarity and accuracy. This means being succinct, again, if the situation calls for it, without revealing TMI, too much information. Keep your personal comments and life out of business transactions. Be well informed, be precise, and show confidence in what you're saying, and you'll continue to win others over. However, be mindful that there's a very fine line between confidence and arrogance. I'm going to include a link for an episode I did about a year ago called The Most Rude Myers-Briggs Type. And I'll remind folks that rudeness may, to some people, be akin to arrogance. But this, like most aspects of communication, is indeed quite subjective. So there you have it. Personality traits that will get you hired. In some, it's basic self-management traits such as self-motivation, being responsible, being confident, and being professional. Traits that are needed for many, but not all jobs include flexibility, analytical skills, strategic skills, independence, problem-solving ability, willingness to collaborate, and then communication skills, which is your ability to express yourself clearly, respectfully, and confidently in a way your audience can hear. So folks, even though we are headed for some financially hard times with the unemployment rate the way that it is, there are some things that you can do to prepare yourself for your next job interview or business transaction. One of those things is to take a good, hard inventory of your skills, both the things you're really good at and the things you need to improve. The next time you're in this situation, be sure to play up the best parts of your personality, whatever your Myers-Briggs type is. I'm Edythe Richards, Myers-Briggs Master Practitioner and founder of the consultancy A Top Career. Thank you for tuning in. If you liked this episode, please give us a share on social media and be sure to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, stay well and stay safe.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you'd like to hear more, or you'd like to submit a question yourself, then you can find us at www.atopcareer.com. Until next time. MBTI and Myers-Briggs are registered trademarks of the MBTI Trust.